Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the upcoming cold and wintry week that we do have. It is now starting to turn colder. Cold air is drifting in from the north, and we'll start to see some of that precipitation, especially in the north, starting to turn to snow before widely precipitation will be falling as snow from around tomorrow and into Tuesday as well. We have had a lot of uncertainty with exact positioning of areas of low pressure and weather fronts, which could decide whether we just see some colder, showery weather, or whether we see some potentially very snowy, disruptively snowy weather from mid-week. Now, we are starting to see a bit of a trend that for the south, we could see some snow midweek, but it's looking likely milder air will return from as early as Thursday, but most of the models perhaps on Friday moving in. So about 4 or 5 days of cold air before that milder air does move in. It could be snow on its leading edge, but turning a lot milder into the weekend. However, we still have uncertainty where that cold and snow line will sit, whether it will be over sort of the Midlands, Northern England, or perhaps as far north as Scotland. And wherever that does occur, we could continue to see very cold and snowy conditions through the end of the week into the weekend. So we'll run through the latest from the weather warnings. We'll look at various precipitation charts, including a lot of the short range charts, and then we'll also have a look at the long range pressure charts as well to keep an eye on the longevity of this cold spell, what could be evolving on the weekend, having a look at that real messy picture, and then of course into the longer range towards next week as well. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if we do start on the live radar, you can see it is still generally dry, but there are more showers cropping up, and more of these showers and areas of precipitation starting to fall as snow over Scotland, mainly over higher ground at the moment, but that freezing level will be slowly dropping towards sea level come this time tomorrow. Very cold air is now spreading in. That had been giving a lot of snow towards towards Scandinavia, but it's now heading towards the UK. Will be giving us very cold conditions over the coming days. You can already see a bit of wintriness over the near continent with a big wave of Arctic air moving in. Now, recording this around midday, and you can see it's a cool day, nothing especially cold, a bit of milder air mixed in there through parts of northern areas, but most areas sort of in those blues to lighter blues with some hints of yellow, again indicating those temperatures around maybe the mid-single digits at this stage, sort of 5 to 8 degrees, generally average to below average, and these lighter blues which are dominating over the higher ground, which are indicating temperatures towards the freezing point, those are becoming a lot more widespread over the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, I do also want to put on the feel-like temperatures. That's going to be really taking a hit. At the moment, it has felt pretty cold out there towards the low single digits, but it's going to feel even colder. Look at those feel-like temperatures widely feeling like freezing or below freezing with those lighter blues everywhere. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these pinks and purples starting to move in, indicating temperatures feeling like minus 10 to minus 20 degrees, especially over the highlands of Scotland, perhaps across northern and northeastern areas as well, in that really bitterly cold northeasterly wind that will be arriving over the next 24 hours. Now, if you look at the weather warnings, we do have an additional warning issued today. We still got that Monday and Tuesday warning. No changes to that yet, so we won't run through those because we did have a look at those in detail in yesterday's and Friday's video. But we'll have a look at this warning that is issued from 6 p.m. today until midnight tonight. Again, it is encompassed into the warning in Monday, but it's basically just extending it earlier for these northeastern parts. Again, first in the firing line for this cold air. Spells of snow are likely to cause some disruption to travel. Again, 2 to 5 centimetres could be falling, mainly over higher ground above 200 metres, but also to low level lying areas. High likelihood, lower end of the impact, but again, where it does occur, it will be impactful, and that risk will continue all the way into Monday and Tuesday. And again, this is mainly for showers, perhaps persistent snow on the polar front that does move in, that could give some snow further southwards through Monday to Tuesday, but mostly from convective showers this. So it will be very hit and miss. Some areas will see very little, others can see a lot, and a real train of these convective showers. So if you now have a look at the UKV, again, the most highly regarded model in my opinion for the short range, sort of that 3 to 5 day time frame. And we'll have a look at the precipitation and the temperature from this. Now it is a little bit against some of the other models at the moment, especially at that day 4, day 5 range towards the end of the week, as it does hold on to that cold air for another 24 hours in the south, whereas the other models don't. It has much milder air, being a bit more progressive. Again, it gives an area of snow for southern areas for a time, which we'll have a look at in a minute, whereas other runs have milder air pushing in. So we do have to take it with a grain of salt. Things can change, and will likely change outside of the next sort of 72 hours, which looks pretty bang on now. So you can see precipitation moving in, could fall to snow quite widely over higher ground in Scotland, and could fall to low-lying areas through this evening. You can see that area of snow through northeastern areas. That's why we've got that weather warning issued, as that does band together, mainly the high ground, but turning to low-lying areas as the sun does set. And then those heavy wintry showers do progress in, all falling snow to all levels by early hours of Monday, and it will progress southwards, falling as snow through northern England through Monday afternoon into the evening, and then overnight into Tuesday. We see this polar front moving in, again the dividing line between cold air and very cold air, and we could see some heavy snow falling along that, even to central southern areas. Again, I wouldn't expect anything too major in terms of settling snow, but could see an area of heavy falling snow, could see grassy surfaces. Again, have to keep an eye on this, because not all runs have this. They have a system, an area of precipitation, but not all have it to this intensity, and not all of them have it falling as snow, as this does progress in and eventually clear southwards and eastwards. Then we just see an absolute peppering of heavy showers in from the north, but by Tuesday evening we're already seeing milder air trying to push in with this weather front in the far south. So wintry showers continue in the north and the east, but you can now see weather front is progressing in from the south and the west, giving rain towards coastal areas and offshore, but falling as snow inland, and could fall heavy snow in places through Wednesday evening. And there could be some accumulations with this, as the ground has had time to cool down. And then as we head into Thursday, this is where some of the runs start to have a bit more progressive in terms of the milder air. Here we see a bit of snow on its leading edge. Some runs here have milder air now pushing straight in, and we see go back into mild weather for the southern half of the British Isles. However, the UKV hangs on to the cold air for another sort of 12 to 24 hours, and actually keeps us relatively cold all the way into the early hours of Friday before this next weather system you can see with a big area of cloud is further northwards, and this is coming in more from a westerly direction, and will be giving widely heavy rain and potentially heavy snow on its northern and eastern edge. Again, uncertainty with its exact positioning, as that will decide where that rain snow line is. And you can see it from the upper air temperatures here at day 5. You can see very cold air still in place, but that milder air is edging much further northwards and westwards, and is now starting to push in. So UKV through probably Friday afternoon will turn us a lot milder, at least for the southern half. Uncertain for the northern extent, so Northern Ireland, parts of the North Midlands, Northern England, Scotland, uncertain with how progressive the milder air is there. We still have a lot of uncertainty within the models for that. So if you look at the max temperatures, you'll be able to see how cold it's going to get over the coming days. You've pretty much got most of the cold spell now into the UKV time frame. You can see by this afternoon, widely for 4 to 7 degrees colder over the high ground, maybe only struggling to around 1 degree. So it is cold today, even though the bitterly cold air hasn't arrived yet. Overnight tonight, widely dropping down towards the mid to low single digits, perhaps freezing in a few spots. And by tomorrow afternoon, you see those temperatures once again, maybe 6 to 8 degrees, so slightly milder in the far south tomorrow afternoon, but a lot colder in the north, and that bitterly cold air will be spreading through by around sort of 6, 7, 8 p.m. And you can see by for most waking up on Tuesday morning, it'll be widely below freezing, and then we could see that snow in the south through Tuesday into Wednesday, and the daytime temperatures won't get much above 3 to 5 degrees under this very cold air mass, and then into Wednesday, freezing cold. The ground is going to widely freeze, and that's why through Wednesday to Thursday, if we do see precipitation bump into that cold air, there is a chance that it does settle, simply because the ground temperatures will be below freezing by this point. And then into Wednesday, again, widely sort of 2 to 4 degrees. You can see across far south, 1 or 2 degrees, and that's under that area of cloud and snow. And then as we head into Thursday, again, widely below freezing overnight, especially with clearer skies. And then into Thursday afternoon, once again, an area of freezing across central southern areas, again, under that cloud and snow. But the far southwest, look at that 10 to 13 degrees as that milder air is edging in, but we still hang on to that freezing cold air all the way into the early hours of Friday. So there's a real battleground situation here. A real example of a proper, true battleground situation. We do think the cold air will win at least the first couple of attempts through Wednesday and Thursday, but by Friday, with that big weather front coming in from the west with big airflow pressure, we do think the mild air will win and will push away all this cold air back into the North Sea, back up into the North Atlantic, and it could linger to parts of Scotland and northern areas, but still very unsure the exact extent of that. So if you do have a look at the icon charts, now again another high resolution model, just going to keep an eye on areas of precipitation, especially later in the week for this. So you can see all those showers, snow showers pushing in. Could see a bit of back edge snow there on that system on Monday to Tuesday, but nowhere near as intense as the UKV has its being, so uncertainty with that. And then as we head into Wednesday, weather fronts approaching from the far southwest, giving snow along the far south coast into the southwest of England, but more rain mixed in there before it does turn to snow more towards central southern England, parts of Wales, perhaps even into parts of the Midlands there. As we head into Thursday to Friday, you see that weather front's much further northwards, and you can see it brings some instantaneous rain through Thursday night into Friday, snow through northern England, maybe Northern Ireland and parts of southern Scotland. You can see the low pressure is much further northwards than the UK had it to be, so huge uncertainty with that. We have to really keep an eye on what this does produce, but still got areas of snow potentially through Tuesday into Wednesday for the far south. Uncertain exact its northern extent and the typing of this precipitation, but as we head into Friday, definitely turning things a lot milder, but once again uncertainty on its northern or southern extent. If you compare it to the R pairs run, again another high resolution model, only runs out to Thursday this run, unfortunately, but we still have a good idea on what's happening, at least for the early part of the week. So you can see the snow moving over the coming 24 hours, heavy snow across parts of Scotland, could clear southwards as well, a bit of a system there down eastern side of the country through Tuesday into Wednesday, and then a weather front approaching the far south could give heavy snow through southern England before eventually clearing into Thursday. Another weather system approaching, but a little bit less progressive with this into Thursday. You can see a bit more elongated this low pressure system, and those weather fronts not making as much progress, so perhaps halting the charge a little bit there, the cold air. Again, I don't think it will halt it completely, maybe just delay it by 12 to 24 hours like the UKV does, but it could produce a bit more snow there through Thursday into Friday before eventually pushing that milder air back in. If you finish by just having the ECMWF high resolution, again, we've got that cold air spreading in over the next 24 hours. Could be some snow on its back edge in the far south, but a lot of heavy wintry showers elsewhere through Tuesday. Again, that weather front approaching into Wednesday. Heavy snow quite widely through central areas. Perhaps this system slightly further northwards into Thursday. Again, this could give heavy snow through the Midlands and northern England instead of southern England, and keeping us cold and wintry there all the way to perhaps early hours of Friday in the north before this big weather front approaches and sweeps milder air away. Milder area in the south, but still through northern England, holding onto that snow, especially over higher ground, for eventually clearing and all going milder through the weekend into early parts of next week. There are repeated signs, perhaps, of some transient northerlies later next week, and with bitterly cold just to our north, they could be pretty cold for a day or two, but not expecting anything majorly cold at this stage. Now, if you finally finish by just having a look at the long-range charts, just keep it up to date with what could be happening in the longer term. Again, you can see the northeasterly wind heading in at the moment, it's heading bitterly cold, and then we see all these low-pressure systems getting thrown in from the Atlantic. They're going to try and break through the colder air. Now, the reason why this is happening is because the high pressure that moves towards Greenland, giving us a negative NAO, an east-based negative NAO, becomes a west-based NAO, a negative NAO, where it does push away towards northern Canada and has allowed low pressure to move in off the Atlantic, not with a ridge of high pressure towards Iceland, which is needed to sustain the northerly wind. Now, things can subtly change, but we're not expecting any major pattern change at this stage, which could halt this big low. And this is why we're pretty sure that towards the weekend we will see much milder air push in, because it's highly unlikely that this sort of extent of low pressure system could get downgraded at this time frame. It could get halted by 24 hours or so, but I don't think it will disintegrate from the model output and eventually clear through. And this is why I said towards early next week we could see another transient northerly as that does move in. There still are signs of heights towards Greenland, but nowhere near as strong and more of a sort of fluid pattern with colder and milder airs mixing, expecting a lot of rain, perhaps snow as well, back in northern areas. Again, compared to the GEM out to day 10, again the northeasterly wind coming in, those low pressures approaching from the Atlantic, again pushing straight through, could go in very cold with that northerly wind behind it, could even be a bit of a named storm perhaps you could see there, snow within some of that, but nothing too crazy, for eventually it does clear, keeping us cold with the northerly wind there for a time, and actually even keeping us quite cold with a bit of a high pressure system developing there, and northeasterly winds developing, so this could turn us bitterly cold once again. Not expecting anything too major as we are heading towards the middle of the month, where it does come increasingly harder to see anything too major in terms of snowfall, but definitely turning quite a bit colder. Perhaps there towards day 10 from the GM, with the low pressure system that moves through giving milder air towards the end of this week. Very much transient before turning us much colder once again. Interesting seeing that. Again, if we look at the ECMWF, again, northeasterly winds pushing in, low pressure approaching from the Atlantic, eventually clearing through and giving us a bit of a northerly wind towards the next week. But again, nothing too crazy. Cold air does spread back in, but we're not expecting anything too huge in terms of that system. If you finish by looking at the ensembles, you can see why it's going to be turning milder towards the end of the week. Uncertainty with how quickly it does turn milder and the extent of that milder air, whether it's just towards average, slightly below average, or well above average like the GFS operational shows. We can see cold air for the next 5 days or so, and then we see this rise, and how quickly it does rise will decide whether some of this precipitation here falls as snow initially and then turns back to rain. But those runs that kept us colder for another couple of days have started to disintegrate. So if you are looking for an extended cold spell, more than sort of 5 days, unfortunately it has diminished. We will still hang on to that cold air in the north, perhaps into the weekend, but most areas this milder air will sweep in. We then say generally average, perhaps below average, unsettled. So there will be more wintriness around, especially in northern areas, but I doubt we'll see much in the south, as we are getting too late in the year really to be seeing significant snow without bitterly cold air masses. We need those -5 to -10 air masses in at least to be seeing snow, and that's why there is potential this next sort of 3 to 5 days. But after that, as soon as the upper air temperatures rise above -5, we could have really no chance with snow. Again, look at the new snow depth spikes. There could be quite a few appearing here for the next couple of days before they do diminish into March. And again, look at the dew points, get a good indicator, and you can see relatively below freezing for a good 3 to 4 days here. Slightly rise through Monday to Tuesday, that could inhibit some of that wintriness, and then into later into the week we can see a big spread here, some still below freezing, others above freezing by Friday, but pretty much all are starting to nudge above freezing by the weekend. Again, the 2 metre temperatures are going to be cold, as we saw in the UKV, widely below 5 or 6 degrees over the next sort of 4 to 5 days. Big uncertainty through Friday and Saturday. They still could be cold, but they could also be quite mild as well. We've got a bit more assurances in Glasgow, though, much further northwards. You can see it is going to be very cold all the way until at least Friday, and then we see a big step change in some runs, or staying very cold in others. Big uncertainty with the spread there. Again, look at the dew points. Again, uncertainty in the spread right in the extended range, but still relatively cold, and the 2 metre temperatures around freezing or slightly above freezing for the next 5 or 6 days, before it could trend slightly above or slightly milder towards the end of the week into the weekend, but still huge uncertainty with that. And finally, the new snow depth spikes could be quite significant later in the week as those weather fronts bump into that cold air, but mainly over the next few days we're looking at convection, which doesn't pick up too well on the ensemble members, so we'll just have to keep an eye on it. And finally, if we just look at the ECMWF ensemble members for the London area, you can see that big step change towards the end of the week. Again, uncertainty how quickly it does it, and how high does it go. That will decide whether we do see some transient snow or we just see generally milder air coming in very quickly. We're going to have to see how it does progress, but I know some people who don't want any wintriness now will like the signs of this that is trending milder towards the end of the week. There are others who want some significant snow, would like to see this cold air hang on a bit longer. It is still touch and go, but I would sway more towards that milder air from around Friday onwards. But of course, we will have to see. There is still plenty of cold and wintry potential until then, and I do think quite a few areas will be seeing some falling snow and potentially some significant snow in place as well. And we'll just have to keep an eye on what those runs are showing. There still is some uncertainty in it, and it is quite a messy picture in terms of typing of the precipitation, intensities, and exact positioning. But we are getting a better picture, and we'll continue to have a look at it over the coming days. So anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you stay up to date and stay subscribed, and keep an eye on the Met Office warnings as well, as they will be continuing to be updated with what is happening. So as I said, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.